Welcome to 3-Point Lead. My name is Max Loeb, Loeb's Leads. This is a Loeb's Leads podcast, and welcome to episode 7 of our Division Outlook series. We're going to be talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Los Angeles Chargers today in the AFC West. There's a clear division winner. There's a borderline wild card team in my eyes, and then there's two bottom feeders. I think you can figure out who is who, but we got to go through each game, each schedule, talk about the games they can win, the games they lose, as well as where it places them in relation to the other teams in the AFC. This is episode 7. Make sure you check out the first 6 episodes. We have this in the NFC West to go. But before we talk about any of these teams, if you are new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. It helps myself out a lot as well. But make sure you follow if you enjoy this type of content. If you're listening on any audio platforms as well, make sure you are following, giving it 5 stars so the next time a new episode comes out, it pops up on your app. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, though, without further ado. I mean, this is a team that has a moderately difficult first half of the year, but with the team they have, they should be able to take care of business. Week 1 against Baltimore, I do have them winning that game, and that's obviously a Thursday night game, so the next game they will come off of their mini-bye, hosting the Cincinnati Bengals, which, again, is a tough game, but I do have them winning that game. Week 3, traveling to Atlanta, I do think they dropped that to the Falcons. I think the Falcons are one of the few teams that can control the line of scrimmage on both sides against Kansas City Chiefs. That's why I think they win that game. Week 4, traveling to LA, they bounce back and they win that. Week 5, hosting the Saints, they should win that. So week 5, the bye week comes week 6, and then they're off their full bye against the Niners, who are off a mini bye coming in hot. We will talk about them in the next podcast, but the Niners win that game. In week 8, I actually have them traveling to Vegas and dropping another game to Vegas. That puts them at 4-3, and the discussions come in. What's wrong with the Chiefs? They lost to the Raiders. They lost earlier on to the year, the Falcons. What is wrong with them? Next week, they play Tampa. They host Tampa. They win that game. Next week after that, they host Denver. They win that game. Week 11, they travel to Buffalo. I do think Buffalo wins that game, but the rest of the year, they have a lot of winnable games. I think after this, one loss after that Buffalo game from weeks 12 to 18. Going to Carolina, you beat the Panthers, host the Raiders, host the Chargers back-to-back weeks. You should pretty handily win those games. Traveling to Cleveland in the winter is tough. I do have the Browns winning that game. But week 16, host the Texans. After a loss, I trust Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Week 17, going to Pittsburgh, I trust Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Then week 18, going to Denver. They always win that game. They should win that game if it matters, of course. So I have them finishing at 12-5, and that puts them the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. This defense is still really good despite the loss of L'Jarius Sneed, but offensively, I think they got exponentially better, especially in the pass game. They add more receivers. They add more weapons. Honestly, since the year that Tyreek Hill was at the top of his game, probably most recently before he left the Chiefs, this is the best offense Patrick Mahomes has had, which is great. They're going to be really good. They also added Juju Smith-Schuster for some depth. If somebody were to go down, obviously Hollywood Brown is going to miss the first game or game in a couple. I think it's going to be more towards 3 or 4. We'll see, but Hollywood Brown is out, so you need somebody to step up against the Baltimore Ravens, and I do think they win that game. Let's move to the first bottom feeder before we talk about the wild card team. That's the Denver Broncos. Now, I looked at the Denver Broncos in the preseason, thought Bo Nix was good, thought he looked fine, thought he showed some promise, and I think the combination of him and Sean Payton is going to be good down the line. Emphasis on down the line. Week 1, traveling to Seattle, that's not a game you win. Week 2, hosting the Steelers, that's probably not a game you win. Week 3, traveling to Tampa, that could go either way, but I do think Tampa pulls it out. Week 4, traveling to get the Jets off their mini-bye. I mean, you're not going to win that game. So you start 0-4. The next 2 weeks, though, I do have them winning back-to-back games. You host Vegas, you beat Vegas. You host the Chargers, you beat the Chargers. Then week 7 comes around. I think the Saints are a better team than we give them credit for. This is kind of the Sean Payton revenge game. I think the Saints beat the Broncos on Thursday night, but coming off the mini-bye next week, Denver beats Carolina. Then it's just hell on earth for this team in terms of their schedule. Week 9, traveling to Baltimore, no way. Week 10, traveling to Kansas City, no way. Week 11, hosting Atlanta, no way. Week 12, you travel to Vegas. I think Vegas wins that game. They split with the Raiders this year. And then week 13, hosting the Browns off a mini-bye, no way. So week 14, you enter your bye week with 3 wins. I do think that the Broncos get another win next week off their bye against the Indianapolis Colts. But week 16, I think they split with the Chargers, especially Chargers later on in the year. They'll be better. Chargers win that one. Week 17, traveling to Cincinnati to get the Bengals off their mini-bye. I think the Bengals win that one. Then week 18, hosting the Chiefs, who will be playing for that 1 seed. It will matter for them. I think the Chiefs win that. So the Denver Broncos finished 4-13, second to last in the conference, 2-4 in the division, 4-4 at home, 0-9 on the road, though. 3-5 versus teams with a losing record from last year, 1-8 against teams with a winning record from last year. 7 games against previous playoff teams, too. It's very important to note. Let's move to The other middle of the pack team, I bet you guys can guess it, but just in case you didn't, it's the Los Angeles Chargers. I think this team is solid. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to move this team in the right direction again in due time, much like the Denver Broncos. We'd be hard-pressed to believe this team's going to win anything serious anytime soon. So week 1, I do have them winning. The first game of the Harbaugh era, I do have them beating the Raiders. But week 2, traveling to Carolina, I think the Panthers win that game. Week 3, traveling to Pittsburgh, I think the Steelers win that game. Week 4, hosting the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs win that game. Then you get to bye week 5. Now, early buys for this type of team, I think, are good. Early buys for a team where you are getting a new coach, getting a new culture, complete overhaul is probably good. So week 6, you travel to Denver. Tough game. I do have Denver winning. Week 7, you travel to Arizona. I do have Arizona winning Monday night. But the week after that, even though you get the Saints off of a mini bye, I think the Chargers win that game, get their second win of the year. But guys, after that, it's still so tough. You travel to Cleveland, you're not going to win that game. I don't think they beat the Titans at home. I don't think they beat the Bengals at home. The only other upset I do have, and I've talked about this in the AFC North video 2 days ago, I think they beat Baltimore. They played Baltimore so well last year. I thought they matched up really well against them. Obviously, Baltimore looks a little different this year, but if the Chargers can stop the run, I think they can do it. I think they beat Baltimore Monday night primetime, low-scoring game. But week 13, you get Atlanta off a bye, no way. Travel to Kansas City, no way. Host the Bucks, I do have them winning that game. Hosting the Broncos, I do have them winning that game. But week 17 and 18, in New England, loss, and in Vegas, loss. So that puts them at 14th, third to last, in the AFC with a 5-12 record. 5-3 at home, taking care of business at home, but no wins on the road. 1-5 versus previous playoff teams as well. Let's move to the Las Vegas Raiders, borderline wildcard team. Spoiler, they don't make the playoffs. I think we've walked through every playoff team in this AFC so far now, but this is a better team than people give them credit for. I'm on the Aiden O'Connell train. I do think Gardner Minshew is going to come in and be okay, but I'm on the Aiden O'Connell train. I think Aiden O'Connell is the best quarterback to have on their roster. When they make the change, if they make the change, is a different thing. But week 1, you lose to the Chargers. Week 2, you get the Ravens off their Thursday night mini bye, and you lose that game. You start 0-2. But hosting Carolina, hosting Cleveland back-to-back weeks, I think they take care of business in both of those games. So move to 2-2, lose to the Broncos the next week, beat the Steelers the week after that, 3-3. Lose to the Rams the next week, beat the Chiefs after that, 4-4. So throughout the first half of the year, they're staying competitive. Now, right before their bye, they traveled to Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati wins that. So they move to the bye 4-5. Again, end of the year, tougher schedule. Are they getting better? How is the quarterback situation? Those are my questions. I think Miami beats them at home. Then you host the Broncos, you win, you move to 5-6. Then you got to travel to Kansas City, 5-7. It's slowly slipping away. Travel to Tampa, you lose, but you beat the Falcons the next week, 6-8, still slowly slipping away. Then you host the Jags. This is, I think, going to be the most pivotal game for the Raiders in 2024. I think the Jags win. They move to 6-9. Then after that, they're sputtering. They go to New Orleans and lose 6-10. They beat the Chargers week 18. They finished 7-10, but 3-3 in the division, 12th in the AFC, 7-1 at home, 0-9 on the road, 3-5 versus prior playoff teams. That's the number I'm looking at. 4-6 versus teams with a winning record from last year as well. So as the AFC West goes, we have the Chiefs in first place at 12-5, the Las Vegas Raiders in second place at 7-12. The Los Angeles Chargers in third place at 5-12, or 7-10 for the Raiders, 5-12 for the Chargers, and 4-13 for the Denver Broncos. Let's get into the award predictions for this division now. Moving to the award predictions, if you guys don't know how this goes, we have a sleeper, a breakout, a rookie of the year, an offensive player of the year, and a defensive player of the year. I'm going to start with my sleeper. I think it's a guy that people just completely forget about all the time. He was a big guy in my obscure touchdown scores last year, Josh Reynolds. I think when Denver looks for a number 2 receiver, all the little slot guys they have can prove to be that, but who's going to be the possession guy that Bo Nix can go to if needed? I think it's going to be Josh Reynolds. I don't know where the volume of that pass offense is going to be, but I can promise you, when Reynolds gets the opportunity, he will make the most of it because he has done it in Detroit. He's done it in good systems. Now he has an opportunity, probably playing from behind a little bit. He's going to produce a little bit more than usual. But moving to my sleeper, I'm going to stay on the same team. Another guy who was pretty good last year, had his name flash a little bit, but nothing super crazy. Baron Browning. I think when you look at edge rushers in the NFL, that is not a name that comes to your mind at all, but he is so smooth, so swift in everything he does coming off of the edge. I think Baron Browning is going to make a name for himself. God, dare I say double-digit sacks this year? I could totally see it. But I do think a lot of that comes back to volume, the opportunities that he's going to have. And to be honest with you, I still do think teams are going to try to throw the ball in Denver more than they run the ball. I think that's where the matchups are when you look at the Denver Broncos. But I think Baron Browning has a good year. He's able to pin his ears back a little bit more this year. I think he is my breakout, quote unquote, player in this division. As for rookie of the year, I'm still leaning Joe Alt. I think he's arguably one of the three best players from this past draft class. I think when you look at him and Rashawn Slater on the other side of each other, they're going to be able to establish the run. They're going to bring the culture that Jim Harbaugh wants to bring to LA. And I think Alt is going to be pretty well known as one of the better tackles in the NFL after this season. Defensive player of the year, Max Crosby. I think AFC West defensive player of the year, absolutely. But overall, defensive player of the year, absolutely a real candidate. I think the way he affects the game in the pass game and in the run game is pretty special. It's kind of second to none because of what he can do in the run game. He's a monster. And now you have Christian Wilkins on the inside of you. Like, I think Max Crosby is going to have plenty of volume in terms of pass rushing, plenty of sacks, but his impact in the run game is going to make it even better, even more noticeable with what he can do as just a defender, not even an edge rusher. An offensive player of the year, I hate to do this, but Patrick Mahomes, I think this is the best pass offense he has had. I don't want to beat a dead horse. We know how good Mahomes is, but I do want to kind of divert the attention a little bit here to Travis Kelce, because I almost put him as offensive player of the year because of the disrespect he is facing just across the internet in general, right? You look at Travis Kelce last year, it was 8 for 89 per game in the playoffs, and then 3 touchdowns in 4 games in the playoffs. He slowed down towards the end of the regular season, but as the playoffs came around, he showed up. He showed up in the biggest moments. I don't know if it's the media. I don't know if it's the fact that there are a lot of young tight ends that are really good in the NFL that kind of take our attention away from Travis Kelce, or it's just the fact that he's a little bit older, but I think he's being disrespected. And I saw his season-long projection on Better Picks. It's 900.5 yards. To me, that's really disrespectful. I think he's a 1,000-plus yard receiver still. But if you want to act on that with me, go to my profile, join Better Picks with code LEADS, LEADS, and they will match your first deposit up to $250. $250. It is the best way to play fantasy sports. You pick more or less on your favorite players, their receptions, their yards, their touchdowns, whatever you like. It is the best way to play. Join with code LEADS, get your first deposit matched. This is the AFC West. We have one more division, the NFC West. Check out the next episode if you want to hear how I view that. And then go back through, make sure you look at all of the playoff teams for every single division that I've done, AFC and NFC. And let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I think the AFC is uber competitive. There's about 11, maybe 12 teams that can make the playoffs in this division. But at the end of the day, only 7 make it. I appreciate you guys watching and listening. We will see you next time. God bless.